Hi, this is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for another show with Elise Marie Collins, How to Super Age. And Elise, I have to tell you, I've been reading snippets of the book, and because my eyes still have not healed, but I get so motivated. It's like, wow, there's so many things that we can do to actually make ourselves rejuvenate. So, thank you for writing your book. And I meant to have it next to me today. And with the time change, I forgot, but I'm sure you have it there, right?
Uh,
No, she doesn't.
here it is. It's just, it's underneath some things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super Ager. And everybody, you've got to go out and get it because it's not something that you're going to read front to back. You're just going to read parts of it. And I'll tell you, I was having a really rotten day yesterday and I just like opened it up, read a section. It was like, oh, this is what I can do for myself. And so thank you very much. But you have a great guest on today and I'm so excited. She's so vibrant. So lead the way, Elise.
Okay, I want to introduce our guest for today, and I'm really excited about this. Sherry Richert Belul helps people find creative, intentional, and impactful ways to celebrate life, and to express love for family and friends. As a certified high performance coach, Sherry supports people in living their best lives, which is what super aging is all about at any age. She wants you to live full of joy, success, engagement, and with meaningful relationships. And she's the author of Say It Now 33 Creative Ways to Say I Love You to the Most Important People in Your Life. Her work has been
Wow.
featured in the New York Times, Huffington Post, and Wall Street Journal. Welcome, Sherry. Is there anything else you want to say to our audience before we get started?
Well, all I want to say is that I'm so happy to be here with you. And I already feel, I love this, right? That energy begets energy. Like the two of you already, with your spirit, with your energy, with your joy, like I already feel better. And I just think that's like what we can do for each other. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Connecting. And that is what your book is about, connecting with people we love, even connecting with new friends, new people in our communities. And that is such an important part of what I call super aging. I'm a yoga teacher. And when I first started, I have to admit, I thought, oh, it's all about your exercise and diet and, get in shape kind of thing. And as I did more research, it was very eye-opening to realize the most important thing is relationships and community and avoiding isolation. Can you tell us a little bit about your book and what the premise behind it is?
Absolutely. Thank you, Elise. Yeah. And I mean, that is exactly so. Relationships, connection, finding meaning in our moment to moment days with people. And, I always like to start with two things. One is I like to tell people that everything I do grew out of a history of depression and anxiety. And I think that's important for people to know. I'm not someone who just is naturally happy, naturally like, waking up with joy. It's really my practice. Celebration is my practice. Love is my practice. And I found through a lot of the gift ideas that are in this book, and they don't have to be gifts. They can even just be ways that we appreciate people or celebrate them. When I was making these kinds of appreciation gifts, I was never depressed. So in those moments, and I think this is so important, when we're immersed in love, even if it's just imagining and thinking about someone we love, it's so good for our systems. And the second thing is something we were all actually talking about before we went live that's really important. The reason the book is called Say It Now is that I would always go to funerals and people tell these beautiful stories. Oh, they put the photos and the tributes, and it's lovely. But inevitably, people will say, I wish I had said that when the person could hear it. And so the reason my book is called Say It Now is it's to not only appreciate these meaningful connections we have, when someone's sick or when they've passed, but now. So that's the premise of the book.
That is so important to say it now. And I live with my parents who are age, let's see, they just turned one. My dad is 92, my mom is 91. So death is part of life, as we know, but there is more of your friends that are not living, or, you're going to more funerals, let's say, when you're in your 90s or 80s. And so I attend many funerals with them. Of course, I've had friends and other family members pass away. And I always thought the same thing. And actually, that's why I love to go to memorials, because I always learn something about life at those memorials or funerals, or in different traditions called different things. And I'm actually going to be going to one in a couple weekends, about a week from now. But yeah, I'm so happy that you say that, because we really need to hear this. Say it now. And I heard my mom say that, because her friend that passed away that I knew through her, she said, oh, I didn't call her back last time she called me during the pandemic. And she's like, I mean, sometimes those things happen. We have to forgive ourselves also, but it's so important to express and listen to, especially older people, but really everybody. It's just a call to action, I'd say. I'm sure that's your call to action. Can you tell us a little bit about how we do a list? Because I know that's something I learned from you, but it's, unless somebody reads your book, and I would highly recommend getting your book, tell us a bit about what is a love list. How would you define that?
Absolutely. So the love list is what I consider sort of the foundational tool of my practice and Simply Celebrate My business. And it's the first item in the book, because the love list is, when I told you guys that I went through that period of depression and, those suicidal tendencies, by some grace, the idea dropped into me. I started making lists of why I loved people, and they're very specific lists. And I think the specificity is really important, because it's the thing that really connects us. Those of us who ever took any writing classes know, you always hear that, right? Like, show, don't tell, because it really hits us in the heart. We feel it. So it's a specific list. And I give in my book a lot of prompts, but I'll just give you a few examples. So when I lead workshops, then what I'll do is I'll say to people, what is something that this person has given you that really impacted you, for instance? Or what's one of this person's strengths that, like, nobody else has this amazing quality? Or what's a favorite memory? And you could phrase things like, I love that time we ... Elise, if I think of Elise, sometimes I'll say to people, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? When I think of Elise, I just think, bubbly, vivacious. I love how bubbly you are. I love your energy. I love your focus on, aging healthfully. I love the way you give to others. And we see it in things like this podcast, right? So, I love the fact that you live with your parents and that you're taking care of them and you speak so respectfully when you talk about them. I love that sometimes you let your little dog jump up into the videos, right? It's just, they don't have to be big things, because the things we love about people they're just the everyday things, but that's what really matters. I always tell people, in obituaries, they focus on, the jobs and the accomplishments a lot, but that's not what we care about, really, when it comes down to it. It's how that person makes us feel. It's what they say that makes us laugh. And that's what the love list is it's a way to show people you matter. You've made an impact on me, and here's why.
I love that. I mean, most of us think those things, but we never find the time to tell the people. Okay. And making that list, even if you don't have the time to tell them, if you have just enough time to write it,
Yes,
mail it to them, hand it to them as a gift. Because sometimes you are in conversation, and how are you going to say, hey, what I really love about you is that you wear these hats and the hats make me feel good. I just may never have that opportunity.
Right. Such a great point. And so there's all sorts of different ways that we can work with that. Like one of the things I suggest to people, keep a jar somewhere, put their name on it. And if you think of something, write it on a slip of paper and put it in the jar. Before you know it, you'll have that jar full and it's a ready-made gift for someone, or text it to them, who's not going to want like every day for a week or a month to get a text from someone that says, and I know, I want to address this because you kind of touched on that. Like, it's odd in the middle of our conversation or in the middle of the way our culture is. We don't really practice that kind of expression, but I'm kind of on a mission to normalize this. And I found in my own life that it didn't actually take very long. Like, people know that I do this. I will actually stop a friend in the middle of a conversation and just be like, I love the way that you just phrased that. I love how caring you are. Or I just, like if it drops in and I'm not saying we all need to do that right away, but making the love list and giving it is a practice in that sort of vulnerability.
I love that.
Yeah. And it's even vulnerable to receive it. I have to say, when you said it to me before, and sometimes I'm like, whoa, like, whoa, it feels like, oh my God, the walls are just, but like today when you said it, I felt like, okay, I know she's going to do this. And I'm like, I'm ready for it. My heart is opening. So I like that.
I love it. And I so appreciate that you said that. I recently just sent out, I do audios for my community every Sunday, and it was about receiving, because that's also, we as a culture, wow, do we need to practice, like what you just said, like we need to kind of open our hearts and be with the uncomfortableness.
Yeah, that's so true. And I want to touch back on the prompts and the specificity, because I think that's very helpful. What happens to me, and maybe you can speak on this, is, for example, I want to thank somebody, just write a thank you note, for something that happened, like, oh, thank you for having me up to your house in the country. It was great. And I literally will get out, I have a little box of thank you cards. I like to do the written out thank you notes. And sometimes I just go blank. It's like my mind, it just empties. It's, and that happens with other things too, as writers. Both of us are writers sometimes, but it happens all the time with thank you notes. And then I'll get my pen moving and then I will think of stuff, but then there's no room or something. But I like the idea of prompts, because that would help me from the beginning, just reframe, because maybe it's just being out of practice. Is there any tips you can give on writing thank you notes?
Oh, I love that. And first of all, applause to you, right? I too I love written thank you notes. And I think that's we could do a whole show around, sending things through the mail, because so important, I think. But yeah, I think exactly what you're pointing to. So I always recommend, whether you're going to write a love list or you're thinking of another gift that you're making from my book, or just another gift that you want to give, or a thank you note, I encourage people to take a few minutes to like get centered, get grounded. And I know you're a master at this, Elise, right? Like at just, we need to be present because we're so distracted by so much busyness. And then to just think about that person, close our eyes, just imagine them, think about their face. And in the case of a thank you note, like, for instance, my mom loves to send me llama things. We have a llama mama joke going on. So we send each, so like I just got a pack of cards from her, so I would think about that. And I would just think, obviously I appreciate the cards, but it's more than that. When I take the pause, it's like, oh my gosh, Mom, I love those cards you sent. Thank you so much. I just so enjoy this running joke we have. Your humor delights me all the time. How lucky am I to have a mom who's so funny? And you are the best llama mama, right? Like, that's simple. But to convey, oftentimes I think it's what we want to convey is underneath. If someone's had us to their house for a weekend, we want to thank them for that, but really we want to thank them for that moment we sat in the chairs on the porch, sipping coffee and listening to the birds, because that just brought our souls such peace, right? Or, we'll find like maybe there's a moment or two to point to.
That's beautiful. And I love the way you said that we should share memories, because I was just hanging out a few weekends ago with some friends from high school, and it was amazing how each of us remembered different things, and we don't have the same memories, but it sort of jogs your memory. Like my friend had a party and she said the police came. And I'm like, I don't remember when the police came to your house. I just remember when they came to my house. I probably didn't care if you got in trouble, and I was like, God, so selective.
Right. And I think that hits upon like a lot of the ideas that I give people for gift giving are centered around memories with people and experiences we've had, because my tagline in my business is making moments into gifts, because to me that's the real gift of our lifetime. And we all know this, and Elise, you talk about this too all the time, right? It's the connections, back to that, to the meaning. But we forget, and especially something's happened over the last like decade or two where it's just so busy. We hardly look at photos anymore. In the olden days, we used to look at photo albums together. Oh, remember? I feel like people rarely do that. And so what you just said is so important, like to think about how can I turn a memory, and it could be something as simple as to turn a memory into a gift, to leave an audio note for someone, which is something I do frequently. And lately I've been choosing music. Like I just left one for a college friend, and I just played a couple songs from those college days. Hey, Jill, remember this song? And then, a little bit of a memory. And my gosh, I just feel so lucky to have had those times with you, because music can spark things.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Just as well as a photograph. Yeah.
Well, and the same thing with photographs today, especially with the younger generation, they take the photo, they post it somewhere, and usually on a program that doesn't save them.
Right.
And they don't have them. So my son will take lots of pictures, and I'll say, your phone must be full. And he'll go, no, because I delete my pictures. And his father and I have been photographers most of our lives. And it's like, what are you talking about? I mean, I've got hard drives full of photos and boxes full of photos. But we have to teach the younger generation that when you look at those photos, the memories they give you. And real quickly, I'll tell you, there was a picture on Facebook that one of my cousins put out there. And I had never been to that cousin's house, not because they didn't invite me, but I lived out of the state, just never got to their house.
Right.
And I thank them so much for putting those pictures up, because now I know where my mom had been. I could, it just opened up a whole avenue. And my cousin and I now are communicating more than we ever have.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Right. And I love that. And one of the tricks that I used I have two nieces who are in their 20s. And one of the things that I do, I still love to print photos and mail them. Right. I already said I'm a fan of Smith. So with my nieces, I will print out photos of times we've had together and send it, just like I said with the love list, but just with a little like, oh my gosh, I am re-loving this whole memory of when we took that hike and we got lost, and oh my gosh, how much we laughed. Right. But the photo will pretty much say it all. And it's one of the gifts that I recommend is to, you could do a photo of the month or a photo of the week for someone, and I love that it doesn't cost a lot of money. You could print it at home. It's 10 cents at a, Walgreens or Staples. But if someone can look forward to receiving these, and my nieces have, I could tell, like, they're like, wow, I love when I get those photos because I don't keep, and then they start to learn how important they are.
Absolutely.
That's fascinating. I know there's a comedian who did a little bit on how it's like, here's a picture of my grandmother with Charles Lindbergh. And then, and it says a few photos that they saved. And then can you imagine the future? Here is my grandmother with her breakfast. Here's my grandmother with some shoes she almost bought.
Oh Elise, that's so good.
I love that. Yeah.
That's really good.
I love that you're everything you're doing, it's gifts, but it's not, sometimes I think gift and I think I have to go buy something, I have to go to the store, I have to order something online. And one of the things I like to remind people of is a lot of the longevity things or anything that is going to help you live more healthfully. It doesn't have to be something that's super expensive. It doesn't have to be a stem cell injection or something, which I don't know how much this costs, but I think they can cost a lot of money. And a love list is a gift. Like you said, you can just put things in a jar, a photo. It's something that is priceless. It's like the commercial. Do you have any stories about people getting those priceless gifts or any?
Well, I just want to say, like, my all-time favorite story, because it's so meaningful, which is that obviously I talk about the love list a lot with my Simply Celebrate community. And I had received an email a couple of years ago from someone who, she was so excited because she'd heard the idea in my newsletter, and her husband was turning 53, and she and her children were like, let's make them love lists, right? So they all made love lists. And it wasn't a big birthday. Normally people might think, oh, I'll wait till the 60th or whatever, but they did it right away. And she said he cried. Like, she was just like, oh my gosh, he cried when he got these. It was so beautiful. And I love that, right? And I get a lot of letters like that, and it was awesome. A month later, I get another email from her. Her husband had died of a heart attack. Just like, right, Carol, like we were just talking about, like that. Nothing, no idea that was going to happen, obviously. And she said to me, I can't believe, like, I'm so grateful that we did that when we did it, because he knew, he knew all the reasons we loved him. He knew how much he mattered. And now we have them. They put him up at the memorial, that the children have them. I mean, so that's just one story of countless stories where people have, made these gifts. I mean, I've had people tell me that they've healed relationships. I've had mothers who make them for their teenage daughters at that really tough moment in time, or, there's, times when relationships are really strained, but people really show up to find the love, which is important. It's there. And of course, they don't always have to be, this kind of extreme, a lot of times they're just fun, but just to give people a sense of they're really important. It really does matter.
Wow. That is a powerful story. And
Absolutely.
they said it now. So that is so important.
Yeah. And that's why, I like to tell that story. And she gave me permission, because she too understands that it's like, it's easy for us all to say, oh yeah, that's a good message. Oh yeah, I hear that. Just again, like Karen and I were saying, before, it's like, it's easy to wake up and think, oh, it's another day, but we don't know. We really don't know. And we need to hear stories like that to remind us, I think about that all the time. Like, I'll have a little hit of, oh, I should check in with my friend, so-and-so. And then I'll be like, oh, I'll do that. And no, I've retrained myself. Like, I don't wait. If it comes in, hey, just checking in with you. You're on my mind. Something I love about you, that easy. So important.
Yeah. Be in the moment and listen to those little intuitive voices. Sometimes we do push them away. And sometimes, I have to admit that happens to me. It probably happens to all of us, where, oh, I'm too busy to go see that person, or they invited me, but no, I got a deadline. I got to write something. And often it doesn't take that much energy to visit or write a love list, but in our minds play tricks on us and kind of shift around what is really important. So my wish for everyone that's listening today is that we really think about what is important and get the book and start to write these lists. Is there anything else that anyone wants to talk about for the list? Or do you have any, I don't like advice, because it sounds, what would you like to leave us with? Another takeaway? Because I know you have so many takeaways.
Well, thank you for asking that, because I do think one of the most important things to remind people of is that the word gift, first and foremost, is something that we give freely. And a lot of times, and we talked a little bit about receiving, we might be really focused on the person receiving it. But what I like to remind people, and again, this is my own story, this for me, it's like an elixir. It used to be medicine, but now it feels like an elixir. It feels like it's the thing that when I give a creative gift, it brings me to life. And I stay focused on that. I love giving them, but I try to totally let go of any sort of, response, because sometimes it takes people a long time to receive things. And it's uncomfortable when we're doing things that are a little bit different or a little unconventional. It's not a reason not to do it, right? Like, so the discomfort or the vulnerability, but to remember that we're going to get so much out of it, and the giving of it, we just give it freely. And, and we hope that people can receive the love.
I think sharing this podcast is a gift.
Oh.
And I really want to stress that to our listeners, that maybe this is something that you might feel uncomfortable sharing with a friend, talking to them about it. But I think when they hear it, and they hear it from your perspective, especially coming from a deep, dark depression that said, hey, wait a second, I don't want to be here. How do I get out of this? And you work through it. And we all need that nice message, even if it's difficult for us to accept. And Elise, I'm like you. When somebody pays me a compliment, the first thing, I do is, oh, well, your hair looks, better than mine, or whatever, because we haven't been taught how to communicate that way. So I think everybody needs to share this, and, let's make our lives a little bit better by making somebody else's life better.
I love that. Uplifting. That's what Super Aging is about. Let's uplift each other. And where can we get your book, and where can we find you? And it looked like you almost were going to say something, one more thing. So.
Well, I was just going to say how beautiful that was.
Thank you.
I agree, and I want to echo too, Elise. It's true. Like, this is why, how much I love you. We haven't even met in person, but I love your energy. And I do feel like this is all a part of what Super Aging is about. And the book is on Amazon. That's the easiest place to find it. It's published by Mango Publishing, and they also have it on their website, and it's at the Target website. And my website is simply celebrate.net. And so I have all sorts of ideas for celebrating ourselves, celebrating our lives, celebrating the people we love.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was great to have you.
It was so much fun. I just love talking to you both.
And we'll have to have you back on again and, take it to the next step.
Okay. I'd love it.
Have a great day, ladies. Bye-bye now.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.